From London, I'm Rochelle Travers, and this is The Standard.
Today we're announcing with immediate effect that where it comes to schools, those one-word judgments will be at an end. We will bring forward a new system of report cards that will better capture a school's strengths, but also areas for improvement.
Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson speaking on BBC Breakfast there, announcing that the one- or two-word Ofsted ratings for schools will be scrapped with immediate effect.
I won't hesitate to intervene in schools that are failing because I'm determined to drive up standards in our schools, but the case for Ofsted reform is clear and we are delivering on the commitment that we made in our manifesto for a better system to support children and families.
Previously, Ofsted awarded 1 of 4 headline grades to schools: outstanding, good, requires improvement and inadequate. Now it will still inspect schools against the same standards, and the reports will continue to give details on specific aspects of how a school is performing. The government said the change, which follows the suicide of head teacher Ruth Perry in 2023, was needed to reduce the high stakes for schools and give parents a better picture. Joining me now is Darren Northcott, the National Official for Education at NASUWT Teaching Union. Darren, what's your reaction to today's announcement from the government?
I think that's an important step in the right direction. I think there's been a consensus across the system, certainly among teachers, school leaders, and parents and others, that the single headline grade outcome for an inspection, the single word grade, is not particularly helpful. So removing that is an important step in the right direction. We've certainly been calling for that for a long time. Others have as well. But there are more things that need to be fixed in our inspection and accountability system. That's a good first step, but there are other things we would like to see.
Some people, and parents in particular, argue that the previous rating system was helpful so they could see at a glance what a school's rating was. What's your response to that?
I think certainly I've heard that, and I've heard some people say they felt that was helpful. But I think the greater part of opinion, even among parents, is that actually that can be a little misleading. It doesn't tell you everything that you maybe as a parent want to know about a school that your child attends or a school where you might be thinking of sending your child. So having something more narrative, something more descriptive than a single headline overarching grade is probably more accurate and would tell you more as a parent about a school. But it would also, I think, encourage better conversations within schools, between schools and local authorities, between schools and the department about how a school is doing and what perhaps it needs to do to improve further. So it's helpful, we think, to remove those headline grades. There's been a big call for that. That's a good step. But it's important that we continue to look at our inspection system, look at our accountability system as well, and make sure that those things that are giving people legitimate cause for concern are addressed as we take forward reforms to that inspection and accountability framework.
Do you know how the new system will work? Is it a case that parents will now have to read through the whole of the report to get an idea of how a school is performing?
I think we're going to wait and see the precise detail from the government, but you would imagine that in broad terms, yes, that's how it would work. So you still have an inspection report divided into sections. There are 4 key headings under which inspection takes place, but parents would have to look through those reports. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. We want those reports to be refined and improved further, but just relying on one single descriptor of a school's performance. Schools do lots of things, and there are lots of things parents expect of the schools to which they send their children. So looking at something more narrative is probably going to give a parent a better idea than a single overarching descriptor.
You've mentioned that this is a good start, but you want to see more changes. What are the sorts of things you would like to see implemented?
Well, one of the things the government has flagged is a report card, and that would be a kind of description of a wider range of things that a school does in supporting the development and future life chances of its pupils. And it's good to see that the government has reinforced its commitment to that report card. We know that's something that Ofsted is thinking about as well. We've called for that. There are other jurisdictions around the world that have a report card system. There are good ways of doing it. There are bad ways of doing it. But I think the idea behind a report card is to give a parent or any interested party a better understanding of what a school is doing, what are its circumstances like, what challenges does it face, and how does it contribute to helping children achieve and succeed.
These changes obviously come after the tragic death of head teacher Ruth Perry in 2023. Do you think schools and educators will be feeling relieved today in light of the scrapping of the 1- and 2-word grades? Could this help relieve some of the anxieties and pressures that come with the job?
I think, to go back to where I started, this is an important step in the right direction, but it doesn't address by far all of those concerns that have been raised, certainly in respect of Ruth Perry's case, but also more broadly. Concern among leaders and teachers has been significant for quite some time about the accountability system. So there are more things that need to be done. To some extent, that ball is in the government's court, because it's the government that sets up the regime around what happens to a school after its Ofsted inspection report. Ofsted inspect, and they've got to do that properly. But it's also about what happens subsequently. That's really key. So making sure Ofsted do their part right and making sure the government does its part right will reduce some of that excessive and completely unreasonable stress and anxiety that so many people in our education system experience as a result, not only of inspection itself, important though that is, but around what happens after the inspectors have left, and then there's a report and what the intervention looks like following the publication of that report. All of that is important in addressing the very legitimate concerns that leaders and teachers have.
Let's go to the ads. Coming up in part 2, how fans across the country were left outraged following the Oasis reunion ticket sale.
The site crashed, many fans weren't even able to access tickets, and those that did were faced with these hugely inflated ticket prices, hundreds of pounds, which is especially egregious because the ticket prices were actually published before the sale.
The Standard Podcast will be back in just a moment. Welcome back. It's the reunion that fans have been waiting 15 years for, Oasis.
We made people feel something that was indefinable.
It's estimated millions of people gathered around their laptops, tablets and smartphones over the weekend to try and secure tickets for the band's UK and Ireland tour dates. But as you no doubt either experienced yourself or heard about through friends and family, it didn't go quite to plan for everyone. Here to explain more is Vicky Jessop, culture writer for the Evening Standard. Vicky, it seems like most of the country is still outraged about what happened with the Oasis reunion ticket sale over the weekend. Just run through what exactly happened.
So, for those who don't know, which is unlikely at this point, but so after breaking up 15 years ago, Oasis announced that they were reuniting. Cue mad joy from the fans, short-lived joy, because Oasis announced a series of gigs across the UK, and fans were kind of encouraged to sign up for a pre-sale ballot, which would essentially give them early access to the tickets. And the ticket sale was set for this weekend just gone. And of course, it brought absolute chaos. So both the pre-sale and the sale itself, there were massive delays. Thousands or millions of fans tried to log on simultaneously. The site crashed, many fans weren't even able to access tickets, and those that did were faced with these hugely inflated ticket prices, hundreds of pounds, which is especially egregious because the ticket prices were actually published before the sale. And so fans were kind of expecting having to pay a certain price. It was still quite expensive, £100 to £175 for a ticket. And then when they logged on, they were faced with prices of, £350 plus. So inevitably, there's been this huge backlash against Ticketmaster, which was the ticketing website selling the tickets, who seem to have been, very unprepared for the massive demand of the fans, kind of perplexingly. And then, of course, there's been uproar about price gouging. So, even after the pre-sale, which happened on Friday, Oasis tickets were within hours being listed on resale websites for prices of up to £14,000. Seated tickets for London were being resold from between £650 to £6,000 on Viagogo. So, full disclosure, I was trying to get tickets for the weekend, and it was a bit of a nightmare. I logged on with my phone to try and get tickets. I refreshed it too many times. Maybe I was still in the Glastonbury ticket mindset, but then it came up with an error message saying that I'd been, identified as a bot due to refreshing too many times. And then from that point onwards, I couldn't use my phone to access Ticketmaster. People that did get through to the website, the website was crashing quite a few times. The sale went live at 9 a.m. and I couldn't get through for about half an hour after that. And when you did get through, you're faced with the kind of loading screen saying, please wait to be put in the queue for tickets, essentially. And I swear I looked at the loading screen for about an hour and it moved about a centimetre across my laptop screen. Yeah, and then once you got through, if you're lucky enough to even get through and put some tickets in your basket, you'd try and go through to payment. The site would crash, you'd lose your tickets, you'd lose your progress, you'd have to go all the way back in again. So yeah, understandably fans are enraged about this. And yeah, to be honest, I was pretty annoyed as well.
The inflated ticket prices in particular are a result of dynamic ticket pricing. Can you just explain to anyone who wasn't aware what this is and how it works?
Yeah, so this was launched back in 2022 in the UK by Ticketmaster. And basically it varies the price of the tickets based on demand. So for a gig where the demand is higher, basically you'll be looking to pay more. So sometimes you'll put tickets in your basket for a certain amount and then you go to check out and they've doubled in price. So yeah, Ticketmaster have said this is a way of giving more money to the artist and stopping ticket touts. But it's worth noting this has kind of been criticised from the start. Industry experts have basically accused them of trying to extract more money from fans, which is the kind of general air, I suppose, of most of the comments online after the Oasis ticket sales as well. The tickets going up by double, triple what they should be. It's kind of, how much should fans expect to pay to see their favourite artists? Not that much.
Is dynamic ticket pricing something most artists use now?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Back when it was introduced in 2022, people have kind of said that Bruce Springsteen kind of gave the go-ahead for people in the industry to use it because he was one of the first to adopt it for his world tour. But having said that, there are artists that don't. Like Ed Sheeran and Taylor Swift didn't use them for their most recent tours. Paul Heaton of The Beautiful South, which will be going on tour soon, he's talked about deliberately making the choice to keep fans happy and keep prices low. New Zealand band Crowded House actually refunded their fans for the difference in ticket prices after the dynamic pricing sent them surging sky high. And I think, Oasis have faced calls to do the same, although I don't think that they will be doing that.
The government has said they're going to look into dynamic ticket pricing. What exactly have they said?
Yeah, so they've said they're going to look at it. It's been deliberately vague about what looking at it actually means. But yeah, several MPs have talked about how ridiculous it is to see these tickets going on sale for such a high amount of money. I think Zara Sultana said that she wanted to see ticket sales being nationalised. But yeah, Lisa Nandy, the culture secretary, basically said it was depressing to see vastly inflated prices, excluding ordinary fans from gigs. She's talked about wanting to end rip-off resales. And she also said the government will look at the issues around the transparency and use of dynamic pricing, including the technology around queuing systems as well. So yeah, that's all they've said so far. But it's good. They're shining a spotlight on the industry, which I think can only be a good thing. I think it needs to change.
And what's your opinion on dynamic ticket pricing? Do you think it's damaging to the music industry?
I think it's damaging to fans because it means that only the wealthiest fans can afford to see the artists they love, and that doesn't really set the scene for a healthy and thriving music industry. When artists like Oasis or Sabrina Carpenter are charging £300 plus for seats and parents are having to take out loans so that their kids can go see these artists, I don't think it's a very healthy thing, and it's just going to foster ill will, I think. The problem is that Ticketmaster has such a stranglehold over the industry, it's going to be hard to affect change. But maybe this is the wake-up call the industry needs.
You can read more about these stories and others on our website, standard.co.uk. And that's it from this episode. This podcast will be back tomorrow at 4 p.m.